How you doing, guys? Tomato sauce in here, and tonight I'm going to take you through everything you need to know about Assassination Rogue in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. So I know you guys are usually coming over here for warrior content, but I have been dabbling. I dusted off my classic Rogue and have geared it up in Wrath of the Lich King. I've gone through all the content with the guild that I'm in. And it's been a lot of fun. So I wanted to come out here and put together a new guide for you guys on Assassination Rogue and how you can go from, you know, maybe a mediocre Assassination player to a top level, high parsing Assassination Rogue for your guild, where it's at its strongest in Phase 1 of Wrath of the Lich King Classic. So what we'll get into today is your talent builds, your glyphs, your gearing, your rotation for both single target and AoE, macros and Weakauras, and I'll even dabble into some professions, as well as show you some gameplay video, you know, at the end of this video. So you can even see from my last raid, you know, some of our kills. I'll have that in the video. So let's get started. But before we do, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, guys, and I know about 92% of my viewers have not clicked that sub button yet, if you could subscribe, it definitely helps out the channel. I'll be able to continue pumping out content for you guys, for anybody, right? Whether you enjoy Wrath of the Lich King Classic or retail, you know, whatever I happen to be getting into at the time, I'll be throwing some guides together for the channel. So click that subscribe button, you know, comment on the videos, shoot me a like. All of this greatly helps the YouTube algorithms and allows me to continue growing the channel. So guys, enough of that self-promotional bullshit. Let's move forward, right? Let's jump into the talent builds, right? So starting off with our talents, and for Assassination Rogue, we are going to discuss my primary build, which is the single target Assassination Rogue spec. I'm running a 51 assassination, 13 combat, 7 subtlety, and I'll go through this point distribution in a very beginner friendly manner. So we're going to jump into it with Malice. This is just going to increase our critical strike chance by 5%. That's absolutely huge for an assassination rogue because it ties directly into Seal Fate, which is a talent we'll get to in a moment. Then we're going to go 3 out of 3 into Ruthlessness. This is going to give your melee finishing moves a 60% chance to add a combo point to your target. This procs 60% of the time, so it's pretty nice. You're going to envenom, and you're going to just have an extra combo point hanging out waiting for you. This will take us into Puncturing Wounds, which for an Assassination Rogue, we're just taking this for the 15% critical strike chance to our Mutilate. Again, ties into Seal Fate, so you can see in just the first 2 rows, we've already given our Mutilate an extra 20% critical strike, which, as I've said over and over again, is going to tie into our Seal Fate talent. This will take us into Lethality, increase the critical strike damage bonus of your combo point generating abilities that do not require stealth by 30%. So this directly buffs Mutilate. We 5 out of 5 it. You're just going to get more Mutilate damage from taking Lethality. Then some of your most important rows in the tree. These are going to directly buff your poisons. Poisons are huge for an assassination rogue because poisons are not affected by armor penetration values. So this is going to increase the damage dealt by your poisons and your envenomability by 20%. And it's going to give your damage over time poisons an additional 30% chance to resist dispel effects. Then we're taking improved poisons, which are going to increase the chance to apply deadly poison to your target by 20% and the frequency of applying instant poison to your target by 50%. From here, we'll take Fleet-Footed. This is just going to be a flat 15% movement speed increase. Take this 100% of the time because we're also engineers and we are enchanting our boots with Nitro Boost. So we'll take that passive speed enchant, you know, 7 days a week. Then we're going to take the Cold Blood talent. This is really nice, single target and AoE. And when activated, it's going to give you an auto crit. The next ability you use will have 100% critical strike chance. So we use this with a 5-point Envenom, single target, or we use this on a big Fan of Knives, when we're opening our Fan of Knives in an AoE pack. Then we jump into Seal Fate 5 out of 5. And this is what I've been talking about. Your critical strikes from abilities that add combo points have a 100% chance to add an additional combo point. So every time that Mutilate crits, that incredible synergy we've seen throughout this tree so far, you're going to have a 100% chance to add an additional combo point. So between Mutilate and Ruthlessness over here, don't be surprised to hit Mutilate, to Envenom, you'll have a combo point left over. You'll hit Mutilate again. You'll be at 4 combo points, and you'll actually just be sitting there pooling energy, ready to use another Envenom. Now, from there, that's going to take us down into Overkill. And this is, really the Assassination tree is a thing of beauty. While Stealth, for 20 seconds, and after breaking Stealth, you regenerate 30% additional energy. So this is really how you can tell a good Assassination rogue, somebody who understands the tree, because they will min-max the heck out of this Overkill buff. You're going to regen 30% additional energy for 20 seconds. So you start the fight, you enter Stealth, you exit Stealth, engage the boss. When Overkill falls off, if Lust is called, you're going to vanish with Lust so that you get Overkill going during Lust, and you're just, maximizing that haste buff and Lust. Really awesome talent. Very, very cool ability. This is going to take us into focused attacks. Your melee critical strikes have a 100% chance to give you 2 energy. This is really nice single target, but it shines in AoE. So this ties into the area of effect Assassination rogue build that I will be going over after the single target one. And of course, we take this in single target because we just want that energy, flowing. This is going to take us into Find Weakness, which is obviously synergizing with Murder. These 2 talents together, it's 5 talent points to get 10% additional damage. Super nice. From there, we're going to take Master Poisoner, and essentially, this is going to increase the critical hit chance of all attacks made against any target you have poisoned by 3%, and it's also going to reduce the duration of all poison effects applied to you by 50%, which, that really doesn't matter, but it also gives Envenom a 100% chance not to consume deadly poison, and that's a very, very nice little piece of this. So you're getting critical hit chance of your poisons, and you're getting your Envenom is not going to consume your deadly poison anymore. Great talent. And we go into Mutilate. It instantly attacks with both weapons for 120% weapon damage, plus an additional 55 with each weapon. The damage is increased by 20% against poison targets. So you can see how much your Mutilate damage is being buffed throughout all the talents in this tree. Then we go Cut to the Chase, 5 out of 5. Such a nice quality of life talent. If I could put 10 talent points here, I would. You Eviscerate and Envenom. They have a 100% chance to refresh your Slice and Dice duration to its 5-point combo point maximum, or to its 5 combo point maximum. And this is huge because what this means is when we open with Slice and Dice, right, you're going to mutilate the boss, go right into your Slice and Dice. You're never going to have to cast Slice and Dice again, which feels good because you should be using your combo points to do damage, not to keep up maintenance buffs. And Assassination, I would probably stay Assassination for the entire expansion on my rogue just for Cut to the Chase. That's how much I don't like maintaining Slice and Dice. Then when this goes into Hunger for Blood, this is just going to increase all damage caused by 5% or by 8% with a glyph, which is what you see here because I glyph Hunger for Blood. And this is going to require a bleed effect on the target. So if you're in a raid and you have a warrior in the raid, you should be able to just apply this right away after you have Slice and Dice up and rolling. But if not, if you're in some warriorless hellhole raid where you have to expose and put your own ruptures up to get Hunger for Blood going, You know, you just put rupture up, and I'll show you how we do that, because I don't have a warrior with me right now, and I'm going to have to put my own bleed up when I show you the single target rotation. Well, let's move into combat, and let's talk about how combat, right, is going to, where we're going to drop these 13 points in combat. It's pretty simple, cut and dry. 5 out of 5 dual wield specialization increases the damage done by your offhand weapon by 50%. And then we're going to go into precision. This is going to increase your chance to hit by 5%. Weapon and poison attacks, absolutely must have talent. The poison cap is 315 hit with these talent points. And 315 is definitely attainable in phase 1 gear. So we take this 5 out of 5 100% of the time. Just a very important talent for assassination rogues. And then we go 3 out of 5 in close quarters combat, because it's just more crit when we're using daggers. And you see how crit synergizes with Seal Fate and many other talents in the assassination tree. Then we move into relentless strikes. Your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to restore 25 energy. So the majority of times that you're using finishers, you'll either have an 80% to a 100% chance to restore 25 energy, which is really nice. It smooths out the assassination rotation. And then we move into opportunity, which is, this is going to increase the damage dealt by your mutilate by 20%. So you're critting a lot with mutilate. This is just 20% extra mutilate damage. You know, it's just nice constant damage that you will always have, because mutilate is your main and really only combo point generating ability that you're going to use in a raid environment, outside of maybe opening with a garrote. So that's the... All right, guys, so we're going to jump into our single target glyphs now. And what we have here for single target, I'm going to take Glyph of Hunger for Blood. This is actually going to increase the damage bonus from Hunger for Blood by an additional 3%. So you're just getting an extra 8% damage every time you put that buff up. You know, it's going to be something you want to track, because, again, it's just free damage on your assassination rogue. Followed by Glyph of Mutilate. This is going to reduce the energy cost of Mutilate by 5, which, you know, assassination rogues, all we want is energy. We're constantly pooling energy. This is just going to make our rotation be a little bit smoother. And then from here, you have 2 options. You can go Glyph of Faint, and what that is going to do is that's going to give you a 0 energy cost feint, and essentially you're going to faint after your envenoms while you're pulling energy. So it'll make your feint cost 0 energy. You press that button after envenom, right, 1 or 2 times. Well, you know, it's got an 11-second cooldown, so 1 time, or a 10-second cooldown rather. And when you faint, that's going to give your main hand dagger a higher chance to proc poisons, right? So you envenom. In your envenom window, you press faint. You know, it also gives you a higher chance to proc berserking on that weapon, which is super nice. But for me and the way I play, I like to give more than receive. So I am going to glyph for Tricks of the Trade, and I am going to allow somebody to do more damage for 10 seconds rather than just 6 seconds. So Tricks of the Trade, as you can see here, where do I have it? Tricks of the Trade is an ability we have as rogues, where all damage, if you read the last line of this tooltip, all damage caused by the target is increased by 15% during this time. So after my initial tricks on the tank, all of my following Tricks of the Trades will go towards damage dealers, and I'll buff their damage by 15% for 10 seconds. If you put it on an Affliction Warlock in Lust, they can even keep that buff throughout the duration of the fight via snapshotting mechanics. I think Affliction Warlocks and Shadow Priests. I've just been buffing my buddy that's an Enhancement Shaman, trying to help bump his logs up right now. But, you know, if we get an Affliction Warlock in the raid, I'll make sure I tricks that guy. So those are the glyphs I use single target. And now let's jump in to the rotation, our single target rotation on Assassination Rogue. All right, guys, so here we go. This is our single target rotation on an Assassination Rogue in a raid environment, right? So the first thing we're going to do before the tank pulls, we're going to enter stealth. And then from here, I'll usually tricks the tank. once the pull timer's up, let's say we got about 5 seconds on the pull timer, I'll throw Tricks of the Trade on the tank. Then he's going into pull. I'm going to leave stealth, hit the boss once, slice and dice. I rupture right now to get up Hunger for Blood. And then from here, you can see my my engineering buff is up. I'll Cold Blood after I mutilate twice, and Venom, get that going. And then it's all about keeping the Envenom buff up and not overcapping on our energy. So just keeping up Overpower, mutilating when needed, and trying to keep this Envenom buff up as much as possible. You can see on my Weakauras that the Slice and Dice is going to refresh every time I Envenom, and we're going to hold our Envenoms for 4 or 5 combo point Envenoms every single time. So you can see here, we've had a little lapse in our Envenom window, but that's not the end of the world, because we'll get it back up, and getting smoothed out as we continue through this fight. Now from here, let's say they lust, I'm going to vanish. This is going to give us our Overpower buff again, and I'll immediately re-engage. And then, we have Hunger for Blood running out, Rupture, recast Hunger for Blood, and you can see my Engineering Hands, the haste buff goes off with that. And then again, it's just about keeping up this Envenom buff as much as possible. And you can see, I've had a little downtime in my Envenom buff, but single target with no outside buffs, just my poisons on. We're doing over 4,000 DPS on our target dummy. So that's our single target rotation on Assassination Rogue. It's a lot of fun. It's not as APM dependent as like Fury or Arms Warrior. So it's been nice to be able to, kind of help out the raid more than I'm able to on my Warrior, because I'm not, stuck staring at the keys. I went from one of the highest APM classes to one of the lowest APM classes, which has been pretty nice from like a raid lead mentality. Although in raid, there is a lot of min-maxing going on your rogue, as if you do it right, you're swapping specs between boss and trash packs. And we will actually get into our AoE rotation next. So let's go over our AoE talents first, and then we'll get into that AoE rotation. All right, so area of effect on an Assassination Rogue. This is actually going to be very interesting, because it also requires that you swap your weapons. I'll get into this when we get into our gearing. Know that I am not using the optimal weapon setup for the AoE spec, and it still absolutely pumps. I finished my first guild run on my rogue as the top damage on boss encounters and in AoE, so encounters and trash and encounters, by following these 2 specs, and just swapping between them on bosses and trash, and absolutely pumping, right? So here's the difference, right? In the AoE Assassination Rogue spec, I won't go through all the nodes again, because a lot of them are the same, but we're only going to go down to focused attacks. And as I told you initially, focused attacks is going to restore energy on all your critical strikes. This is absolutely massive when you're using Fan of Knives, because Fan of Knives takes a ton of energy. But the more enemies that are around you, the faster you're going to regenerate your energy, because you're going to be critting like crazy. Now we'll go into the combat tree, and I will show you what I take differently in the combat tree. So I'm going to take Improved Slice and Dice, because when I do press Slice and Dice in this build, and you will put it up every now and then, I want it to be, just up as long as possible. I'm not ever going to put too many points in Slice and Dice, but, if I drop 2 in initially on a pull, I want it to last longer. We're going to go 5 out of 5 close quarters combat. I go 2 out of 2 2 out of 2 endurance, which is just going to allow me to sprint longer. It's going to reduce the cooldown on sprint and evasion by 60 seconds. And it's also going to increase my total stamina by 4%, which is nice, because I have an ability to really pull threat in this build, especially if you don't open with Tricks on the tank, because it's down from the last pack. So that extra stamina will keep you alive sometimes. Then I'll take Lightning Reflexes for the 10% melee haste and 6% additional dodge. I'll take 1 out of 5 in aggression, just because I'm looking for a spot to throw this point. Just increases my Sinister Strike, right? So if I do have to Sinister Strike, I'll get a little damage bonus there. And I'm going to take Blade Flurry Oh yeah. Down to weapon expertise, which is just going to give us some more expertise. Down to blade twisting, where this will be just increase sinister strike damage by 10% because you will single target in this sometimes, like towards the end of a pack. Down to adrenaline rush, and this is really like the bread and butter when this is up. You are just fan of knivesing like crazy, and you'll see that in a second when we get into the AoE rotation. And then vitality, which is going to increase our energy regeneration rate even further when we're in this AoE spec. And this also ties into our glyphs. So one thing that we're taking that we did not take in our single target build is vigor from the assassination tree. So we're also going to take the glyph of vigor so we can get 20 more energy, and that'll just allow us to get more fan of knives casts out, in AoE. And then we'll take the glyph of fan of knives, which is going to increase our damage done by fan of knives by 20%. And then from here, I personally take the glyph of adrenaline rush because when I pop it, I like it to be up for as long as possible. There are other glyphs you can take here. I prefer glyph of adrenaline rush though. And then for minor glyphs, it's pretty much the same everywhere. For me, I take vanish, safe fall. You can either take distract or blurred speed. I like blurred speed for open world nonsense. If depending on which spec I'm in, I run it in both. So let's talk about the AoE rotation. The AoE rotation is a lot of fun, just like the single target rotation. We're going to start out with our, getting our overkill buff ready. So let's say the tank pulls. You can do one of two things, right? You're always going to target an enemy to keep your white hits rolling. But you can also start out. So you can do a few things. You can either tricks the tank, pop cold blood, blade flurry, and adrenaline rush on the way to the pack and just blow things up. If your raid is super fast at killing AoE, if it's not super fast at killing AoE, you can tricks the tank, sinister strike a mob, get up slice and dice. My raid is in the middle, and I really like to come out of this looking like an atomic bomb. So I go for the first, where I'm actually going to pop cold blood on my way there. I'm going to pop blade flurry on the way there, pop adrenaline rush on the way there, tricks the tank, and then I'm just blowing up like a bat out of hell, and just absolutely massive pumping the whole way through, right? So just a ton of damage the whole time. And you saw, right, when we first started this, we were pumping to levels not seen before, right? 40k plus, and I don't even have the best weapons. So how does the AoE spec change from your single target? I'm going to get into the beginning of the gearing conversation, but then I'll go into a full gearing as I usually do. In single target, you're going to use a fast dagger in your main hand, and a slow dagger in your offhand, right? You're going to put instant poison on the slow dagger. The slower attack speed is going to allow instant poison to proc more. And the faster dagger is going to have your deadly poison. In AoE, we want to run a slow weapon. A slow dagger is the best. So Titan Steel Spellblade is actually your best weapon to use here. I haven't made one yet. I'm going to make one this week. I'm actually saving up Titan Steel bars to do that. And then you want to run a Berserking enchant on it. But I did get this out of Nax 10, so I threw a Mongoose on it just to have some type of weapon enchant. Then I'm just using my Sinister Revenge in the offhand, where Fell Striker is actually your best offhand. I've been trying to farm that here and there and just have not been that lucky. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to have instant poison on both of these in AoE, and you are just going to pump, right? So what we were looking at before, on 4 targets, we had Fan of Knives doing a ton of damage, instant poison cracking, blade flurry, and our melee doing damage behind that. We bursted over 40k on these 4 targets. It's a ton of damage. It's a ton of fun. And that initial cold blood proc, you just see that first Fan of Knives cast completely refill your energy bar, and your damage is just going to scale exponentially. So you're only limited by how many mobs your tank pulls, and if you have tricks of the trade up for your tank so that you don't instantly die to a massive amount of threat coming your way. You will do the most damage in the raid with this spec on trash, and you'll be one of the top damage dealers on all bosses with the 51-13-7 spec. You really can't go wrong with Assassination Rogue and just Rogue in general right now. because the poisons are not limited by armor penetration. So there's a lot of fun to be had on Rogue at the moment. This was our little rotation walkthrough in single target and AoE. Next, let's get into our macros and some Weakauras that I use on Rogue. All right, guys, so let's go over all the macros I use on my Rogue. I'll just go down the line here. My first macro is just an adrenaline rush macro. You can see I'm using 13. This is if I have an on-use trinket. I always keep it in the macro. And then I'm also using 10. 10 is actually your glove enchant. So if you're running the hyperspeed accelerators from engineering, you're going to want to have use 10 in all of your big cooldown macros. And you can see I'm doing the same thing in Blade Flurry. I'm doing the same thing in Cold Blood, not using a use 13 because when I made this, I stopped using an on-use trinket. Then you can see in Venom, I was doing the same thing, but this really is not necessary for me anymore. I do have a start attack in Venom. I do the same thing with Fan of Knives, where I Fan of Knives and start attack. These macros are more for subtlety and combat. Oh, this is my Hunger for Blood macro and Assassination. So again, right, use 13, use 10. I can actually clip all of the use 13s out of these because I am not using an on-use trinket right now, and I will not be for the rest of this phase. Then in Mutilate, I'm going to start attack. I have a sap macro that I use in stealth for target nearest enemy player. This is nice in battlegrounds and arenas. You know, I have a Sinister Strike macro with start attack in it. Then I have 2 Tricks of the Trades macros. I have one specifically for my tank and one that I use as a mouse over. And that's really it. Rogue is pretty simple where, you know, you're just macroing in start attack to all of your abilities and then making sure that you are going to use your hyperspeed accelerators with your major cooldowns. So the Rogue macros are pretty simple. Now, as far as Weakauras go, I'm actually not as crazy as I am in my Warrior Weakauras, which are showing up right now when I open this. I'm actually just using Omni's PvE Rogue Weakauras, where I went and changed the energy color and the combo points. I didn't like the baseline yellow in this Weakaura, and I wanted to see like my Hunger for Blood proc and, you know, all of my abilities have a little poison reminder here. I changed the positioning on some of this stuff as well, just to make it a little bit more appeasing to myself. But yeah, I mean, this is the bread and butter for what I use on Assassination Rogue. You can grab anything off Wago. I'll put my edit to Omni's PvE Rogue Weakauras in my Discord in the Rogue channel. And then from here, I'm using the Hyperspeed Acceleration Weakaura that I made. And this is literally just, you know, tracking our hyperspeed accelerators. This is one that I actually edited off of Wago. I didn't like the way it came baseline. So that's pretty much it. That's all I use on Rogue as far as Weakauras go and as far as macros go. It's a much simpler class than Warrior. It is lower APM. So this is a very, very chill class to play in Raid right now. And it's nice that it does a ton of damage and brings a lot of utility in that Tricks of the Trade buff to the Raid. Now, let's get into gearing. All right. So, gearing on... First, let's go back to my primary spec. Gearing on an Assassination Rogue in Wrath of the Lich King is actually pretty chill. It's not too bad. What you want to do is shoot for 4 set. So, you know, you can get 2 of your pieces right away from your badges. And, you know, really you can get all 4 from badges, from your raid badges as well. I just got very lucky. And I got both of my shoulders and leggings out of a pug the first week that I ran the Assassination Rogue. I didn't GDKP it. I just had super hot dice and won the shoulders and the leggings in this pug. But I'm going to go through all of my gearing choices and where I'm at today with my Assassination Rogue. Let's do it piece by piece. So I'm going weakness spectralizers right now. Where I would upgrade these would be the Valoris Bone Scythe helmet. You definitely want to have your helmet incorporated in your 4-piece, but my rogue is only 2 weeks old. It's 2 lockouts old. And I think we've come a long, long way in a very short period of time, which I think just kind of, kind of speaks to the state of the game right now. But we have the weakness spectralizers, Pendant of the Dragonsworn, which I got out of Eye of Eternity 10-man. Ran it with my guild, and they gave it to my rogue because I was trying to, move quickly into this position where I was transitioning from my warrior to my rogue in phase 1. Then I got the Valoris Bone Scythe Pauldrons and a pug. Hot dice, don't roll against me. I'm going to take it. I was able to get the Hammerhead Sharkskin Cloak this week, along with the Ring of Invincibility, because I won my shoulders and my leggings and I didn't have to use badges on these. So those were 2 huge wins for gearing this rogue. But I did have to use badges on my chest. I'm using the Hero's Bone Scythe chest, which I will move into the chest guard of the Recluse in order to get more expertise for my buck. You're going to see I'm a little bit under hit cap and a little bit under expertise cap, but I've still been able to parse 95 plus on a lot of fights overall, and 99 for my eye level, because my rogue is kind of a low eye level, right? It's only like 4K gear score and 206 item level. So I guess because of the state of my rogue, that eye level that the parse lords have dropped me at, I'm actually better eye level than overall right now, which is strange, except on Kel'Thuzad where I just flat 99 that boss overall. Take this into the thrusting bands. So you have two bracer choices on a rogue. You can go thrusting bands or sinner's bindings. I like that thrusting bands has hit and expertise, and because my rogue is very young with Hero's Bone Scythe and weakness spectralizers, these are an incredible piece for me. I passed on sinners last week and I took the thrusting bands instead. I think it was just a better gearing option for myself with where this rogue's at right now. Hero's Bone Scythe gauntlets. You can move into the leather gloves out of, I think it's I-25 eventually. And at that point you would want to keep the Valoris Bone Scythe breastplate. But really, I think the gloves are probably Biss, and going with chest guard of the Recluse. And I think Simonize's current sims back that out as well. So I'd probably keep tier gloves in order to maintain the 4 set so that we could use chest guard of the Recluse and get a ton of expertise on that piece. And it's a 226 piece, so you're going to have just higher main stat on it as well. Right now I'm rocking Jorok's Crocolisk skin belt from badges. There's options here. You have a lot of belts to choose from. Any of them that are on this tier, right, 200 to 213 are going to be good. Equip them, you'll do a lot of damage. The belt's not going to make or break you. For leggings, obviously I'm running Valoris Bone Scythe leggings, leg plates. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change this because eventually we want to move into chest guard of the Recluse. So yeah, Rogue needs 2 really difficult pieces in the helmet and that chest. So the tier helmet and the chest guard of the Recluse. So we'll see when my Rogue gets that. Right now I'm rocking the Exalted Argent Crusade boots of the Never-Ending Path. Eventually you'll want to move into Dawnwalkers. There's a couple other, small DPS decreases from Dawnwalkers, but shoot for the sky. Go for those Dawnwalkers. And as I said before, I'm using Ring of Invincibility until I get the Surge Needle Ring, which I have on my warrior. And at the moment, I'm very sad that I equipped it on my warrior because I am maining the rogue for phase 1, while keeping the warrior geared. But the Surge Needle would have been better on the rogue because I would have crossed that hit cap that I need for my poisons. So I'm getting my hit elsewhere. This week I got my hit from the candies from the Halloween event. Next week I'll probably eat some hit food in order to cross that poison hit cap. Then I am running the Strong-Handed Ring. This is another item that I took out of the same pug that I won the wet leg plates and the shoulders from. These guys definitely did not like my rolls in that pug. Yeah, don't leave your girl around me. True player for real. 99 or 100 rolls all day. Super lucky pug. I'm sorry to everybody that was in that pug with me. I got hot dice, I guess, randomly. Then you'll see I have Dark Moon card Greatness, and I did splurge for Greatness this week. I actually met a really cool guy at a trade chat that had 5 of the cards on his alt, and then I bought those off of him, and he helped me in trade find cards for a cheap price to complete the set. This would only happen in Classic WoW. This is not something that'll happen in Retail WoW. This is why I love Classic WoW so much. You just get super helpful people in all stages of the game. And then from here, Mirror of Truth. This is always the first thing that we buy as melee DPS with our badges. It's just an awesome trinket with a great proc chance equip. Now into my weapons. You're going to see I'm using a blue weapon here, Librarian's Paper Cutter, which I enchant with Deadly Poison and Berserking. Where this will get replaced is with Webbed Death eventually off a noob. I have yet to see Webbed Death. And Librarian's Paper Cutter as a 1.3 speed dagger is absolutely massive for our main hand. It sims higher than Murder. I actually have Murder. I've simmed them both, and I've DPS'd with them both, and I get much better results with my Librarian Paper Cutter. You can run this until you have Web Death. It's that good in your main hand. And then for your offhand, you guessed it, I actually took this out of that same pug that I took the leggings and the strong-handed ring and the shoulders. Luckily, there was no other rogues, so this just defaulted to me. I didn't even have to roll for this. They were they were a little weird about the loot drops, right? They were laughing that I was the only rogue. I showed up as a 1-week-old rogue, and I left as Thanos essentially. So I have Sinister Revenge. I threw Berserking on it. This is the best offhand dagger you can get for the phase. So that is how I geared my rogue, and those were some of the future gearing choices that I would make as I swap into some better pieces, right? Changing the goggles for the Valoris helmet off of Kel'Thuzad, and changing the breastplate for the chest guard of the Recluse eventually, and hopefully falling into a Surge Needle ring at some point in time. Yeah, pretty simple gearing. And then for AoE, again, right? If you rock that AoE talent spec, you will want to swap into a slow main hand weapon, whether it's the Titan Steel Spellblade, if you can afford that. Or I'm just using Kel'Thuzad's Reach right now. You could also use Calamity's Grasp, the 226 version of Kel'Thuzad's Reach. And you would just berserk that. I just have Mongoose on it because I figure I'm going to make a Titan Steel Spellblade this week. So, I'll save my last berserking enchant for that. Or if Calamity's Grasp drops, I would just use that. If for nothing else, in case I wanted to flex into combat and play around a little bit. That's gearing on your Assassination rogue. All right, guys. So it looks like my video editor cannot... I'm going to have to buy a premium one, right? But I do want to get this Assassination rogue guide out. Looks like my video editor will not slice a 151-minute video up, so I can't show my Nax run. But I will upload it separately. So if you guys do want to see my full Nax run on my rogue for the guild, I can do that, but I figured I would just show you guys, this is the first guild run. You can see I've only had 2 lockouts, 1 pug and 1 guild run. We could sort by eye level, right? They look a little higher, a couple more 99s in there, not bad. But, we can take a look at the 99 overall Kel'Thuzad. You can see just massive damage here. It's over 7,200 DPS on Kel'Thuzad. Yeah, Sin is nuts. We can take a look at, like my Thaddeus was really crazy too. Breaking 11,000 DPS. You can just see how far ahead Sin Rogue is, over the rest of the raid. And like a Lotheb is another pretty cool one to see. where you can just see that like single target damage of Assassination Rogue just go, you know, getting massive with all the extra crit that you get in Lotheb. So, you know, these logs are there. You can search my rogue's name, Tomato LOL Unsulfurous, and just see how I've kind of progressed as a rogue. And I hope that helps you guys out in the future. Absolutely pumps, guys. So I hope you enjoyed the guide. If you made it this far, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Have a good week. Have a good month. And have a great year. God bless. Tomato Saucin' out.